Welcome to This Week in Pulling, the show that brings you all the action from the world of tractor and truck pulling. I'm Dan Mayer, joined by Jeremy and Miles Krieger, and each week we'll dive into the latest highlights, breaking news, and behind-the-scenes stories from the sport we all love. From upcoming events, standout performances, and the rich history that shaped pulling into what it is today, we've got you covered. So buckle up, This Week in Pulling starts now. Welcome back, This Week in Pulling, episode 18. Guys, how's it going?
Hi, good afternoon or evening, as it were. It's great to see you guys again. It's good to see Miles. I know
back. Thanks for
you've been kind of on the grind and doing what you do. So welcome back, and good to see you guys again.
Yeah. So guys, busy. Last couple of weeks have been, we're starting to hit that mid-season stride here with busy time here in pulling. And tell us what's been going on your guys' end.
Well, I think, pulling season, as you have stated, and as everybody can see, is in absolute full swing. Everybody's busy. Everybody's moving. I think points standings are starting to take shape in the early season. I had the opportunity this weekend to do kind of a nasty double. I was in Jerseyville, Illinois, with the Pro Pulling League on Friday night, and then in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, with Mid-South on Saturday night. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's what I did this past week in pulling, and I left Friday morning, drove basically all the way to St. Louis, and then about 50 miles north up 255 to beautiful Jerseyville. Had the opportunity to stop in there and rest a little while, relax before. And I got to tell you, I don't talk a lot about local color, but my mom passed away in 2015, and we all miss her very much. But she was, of course, Nana to her 7 grandbabies and 8 grandbabies, and she. There's a place there called Nana's, which was really, really kind of cool. Like they had ice cream and pie, and they had chocolate malts, and she absolutely loved chocolate malts. So I could not leave Jerseyville without stopping to get me a malt. So it was very, very tasty. Posted a little story about that, but Jerseyville, if you're ever up that way, stop at Nana's, get yourself some ice cream or some sweets, because they've got some good stuff up there. Great show. We moved it up a little bit early because the rains were coming, and boy, did they come. There were a couple local classes that I think maybe just got finished there in Jerseyville, but they moved the show up about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and we got it done. But boy, the rains came that evening for sure. What have you guys been up to?
Miles?
Well, unlike you gentlemen, I spent my weekend at home working. I didn't get to do any pulling travel, but I announced, Toma, and then after that, I don't have anything until this weekend. So I've had a couple of weekends off between that, but there's been a lot of sheep showing happening. Last night was our county fair show, so we were plenty busy over the weekend prepping and loading and getting ready for that. And last night, Landry was the Supreme Champion U at the county fair, and she was also champion junior showman. Nice. So we had a good night. She won both of her classes on the market side of things. So pretty well an ideal situation for her, and we were super excited about that. And now we just kind of gear everything towards Indiana State Fair. So the next 2.5 to 3 weeks will be just all hands on deck in the Krieger barn, trying to get things ready, as we have 4 weathers and 6 U's that will go up over 2 consecutive weekends. While you guys are out pulling, we'll be showing at the historic Indiana State Fair. So I do have a couple of trips planned here, some pulling involved in the middle of that before we really fully get there. But this weekend, obviously, get to go to Henry, be with Jeremy there, and this will be my 20th time to get to announce that event. So pretty excited to go and be back at the Marshall Putnam County Fairgrounds. And obviously I sat and watched a good chunk of the event in Rock Valley. And Dan, I commend you and Ron and Mike for doing a fantastic job. And Dan, you and I hopefully will dig a little bit deeper and talk a little bit more about this after you get done with your kind of discussion of it. But wow, do the Outlaws know what they're doing?
Yeah, for sure. And my first opportunity to have a full-blown outlaw event, to attend a full-blown outlaw event. And
last year was down in Lufkin, Texas, where we had just a couple classes down there. But the Rock Valley event is, everything you hear about it, it is to the T. I mean, that event is one of the premier events in the nation, and it just everything from competitors to the folks that put the event on, the whole community support, the Outlaw organization, just everybody involved with it. It's just absolutely an amazing event, and being at some of the biggest events in the country, this one here just ranks right up with it. It's definitely a premier event, and looking forward to going back there. A bunch of great people.
Yes, sir. Well, it's, you and I talk quite regularly about moving shows along and trying to make sure that we just are constantly clicking. And with 2 tracks, they do a fantastic job of that. But, less than 2 minutes, less than 3 minutes on an average to be able to get vehicles up and down the track. And you've got 13 2-wheel drive trucks in your class. And, that 13 2-wheel drive trucks takes you 40 minutes, less than 40 minutes. And that's from before they reset the wagon all the way to, changing the sled to get it ready from one class to the next. So I commend them. You think about all the classes that you guys had and just how efficiently and quickly that show ran. Just not an overabundance of slowdown. And that's just kind of the MO of those guys that are with the Outlaws. So to Kurt and Taylor, Dave, and all the guys that put that show or help put that show on everywhere they go, pretty good job.
Yeah, Rich Roseboom, he's the guy that really is more or less the promoter behind that event. And like you say, it is a community event. They had the big flood last year, and had the opportunity when I got there on Wednesday afternoon and kind of was shown around the area. And, the folks down there are still waiting for support, from the flood from a year ago. You see a lot of the houses down there where the basements were pushed out, and it's really heartbreaking to see what this community went through with that flood, and and still waiting for help for it, and there's a lot of houses that are still waiting to get redone, and but they're moving ahead. They're the best they can, and one of the best things that I saw this weekend was the folks in Rock Valley had a deal set up. They had a bucket set up for the folks down in Texas for the floods. So they were already helping other people, where they were helped last year. Well, they're moving that support, to help the folks in Texas with those terrible floods. So, it just goes to show you how, great people, all over the United States. And, you take one disaster and they want to help somebody else out when they're not even done with theirs. And, and that to me really, it really tugs at you, but it's good to see, there's great people out there and great communities and stuff like that really, shines through.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was, like I say, just an absolutely great event. Talking earlier with Miles, about Dave Nelson. Now he's the guy that's pushing him along down there. He's more or less the guy, making sure everybody's getting to the sled quickly. And he had told me on Friday night that they had averaged 1.9 minutes per hook. And just absolutely amazing. He says, Dan, that's not good enough. We're going to go for 1.5 on Saturday. And for those that don't know Dave Nelson, Dave worked down at the farm show for a bunch of years. He was the guy at the start line that always stand there and kind of hurry everybody up. And the last couple of years, he hasn't been able to make it down there. But yeah, just one of the great guys behind the scenes of that Outlaw group that really keep things moving. And what a show as far as equipment. We saw quite a few competitors come out from the Midwest, and yeah, it just made for just a great weekend of pulling, and highly recommended if you're out in that northwest corner of Iowa. We flew into South Dakota. Actually, on the way to Rock Valley, we were in South Dakota. We went through Minnesota and then down into the northern Iowa. So we, hit right up in that corner there of northwest Iowa. But yeah, what a great event.
I got a question for you. You think about that modified class, which to watch Friday night's class and then come back and watch Saturday night's class, there's a little bit of change there, obviously, with those two turbines going 1 and 2. The turbines seemed to struggle a little bit on Saturday night, but was the track significantly different, or do you think that the mod guys that were on the Hemi side figured something out?
Well, yeah, it was kind of, I think, a little bit of both. Like Cody Behrens had talked to us on the Countdown show on Saturday night, and he was talking about with the turbines how they just get after it, get up on top of the dirt, and if the track's a little bitey, that's where they're going to lose. They're not going to be able to get up on top of the dirt like they normally do. So the track was a little bit better, they said, on Saturday night from what we saw. On Friday night where they ran, where the turbines dominated there. But, but like I say, I think, a lot of the Hemi guys were, stepped up their A game. I know Bollinger's changed tires. Sullivan's, that was only the second time they'd run at that setup, third time that they've run with that setup. And so with that extra,
1,200 pounds or whatever they put on, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it made it, but yeah, everybody, and then it was great to see the Top Gun out there, and they've kind of put that old, the blower setup on the shelf. Steve had said for now, they're not sure if they're going to go back to it, but he's got some ideas they want to do maybe down the road. But with the Outlaws, as I was curious with the running a twin Allison with the Outlaws, what the rules were, but you can run the 8.8 supercharger. So that's what they had to change on that tractor. But yeah, no, it was good to see that tractor back out there, and yeah, just a great class of modifieds, and all the classes really put on a good show.
Well, there's a couple that like that Pro Stock 4x4 truck class. That's that class there. Of course, I love an old square body Chevy, and there's just an overabundance of those sort of like 69 to 72 model.
Oh yeah,
Chevys.
I think about half the class were either the square body early 80s, or you had the late 60, early 70 Chevys, and then you had a couple for Dave Bennett. You had a couple Ford Sprinklers there, and we had a couple Dodges. But yeah, that's a neat class they have out there, and like you said, very popular. I think that was one of the largest fields of the classes out there. Besides the light limited Pro Stock tractors are very popular. So those are like basically an 85 limited Pro is what they are, the rules more or less. So they got some different names for some different classes, but basically the same thing out there. So
Ritter drove Umpton's truck, so that was pretty awesome to see on Saturday night. He nearly won the thing, which was awesome.
Yeah, that was good to see. And then then you had helping. Well, Ritter had helped him out during the day. The Ford guys kind of sticking together there, so that was kind of neat. And then they give away the Rock Award for the weekend. The kind of the overall best runs of the weekend kind of deal, and lowest kind of like we've seen with the Ring and Bowling Green and different places with doing different things like the Belt Buckle in Hillsboro. So they give the Rock away, and that's a pretty neat award. And then they had the longest distance award as far as pulling distance goes. And I think we had 406. The Grimes tractor went 406 on Saturday night. That was right after the Rock sled had kind of broke. That was Gary Sabaka's sled was running on the East track there. And they brought in the sled from Colorado. And, the light pro class was next up there. And he went out 406. And
that was a nice pass, though. Nothing away from ground.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was that was, if you look at picture perfect passes for the weekend, that was one of them right there. So that was good to see. So, but yeah, great competition, and the Outlaw season just continues to chug on, and hats off to all those folks involved with the event out there, and and plus I got to meet another Bills fan, Kirk Koima, one of the guys involved with that event. Runs at Super Farm, the Red Rock tractor as well, and he's a Buffalo Bills fan. So there's a fan out there in Northwest Iowa. So that was kind of neat to kind of talk with him for a little bit. So
those guys put a Pro Stock together too, didn't they? Right?
Yep. They got they get working on that and getting that going, and the 5.0 Pro Stock class just every keeps building and building, and talking to a few competitors over the weekend, looking to move on into that class. So, look out in a couple of years. I say that's that's going to be we're going to be looking about 20 or 25 vehicles, I would say, throughout, that western side of things, and, working on into Illinois as well. I think it's going to really take off.
That's awesome.
So, Jeremy, how did things go there in Jerseyville?
Well, it was a good show. Like I say, it's the first time I'd ever gone there, but it was very nice and very, very well done. And I had worked with the same fella that you had worked with there, the local guy. And he asked about you and said to tell you hello. So it was fun. He's a local guy there that has a salvage yard or an auto parts store called Red's. And so he was showing me all the really cool toys he's got right now, Hemis, and he's got a nostalgia drag car, and it was really, really cool to kind of just banter with him a while in between classes, but it was enjoyable. And the action was really good. I think not surprising seeing the Simons in the mod class just scoot on past 30 feet. And you're just like, wow, here we go, man. What's going on there? These guys have got something figured out. But no, that guy's name is Eric Galley, by the way. I got to mention his name. But
okay.
Seeing Brandon just last took in the class, just very nonchalantly, just kind of drives by. Brett Berg's leading the whole class, and we go from 305 to 335, and I was really impressed with the way the track held of the evening. Same sort of situation in the two-wheel drive class. Jeremy Nelson goes out early and has a good strong pass that holds for a while, and then as the evening goes along, people kind of started to get him, and then Jared went to like 334 and some change, and I thought, okay, well, Jared's in a really, really good spot, but we got one left sitting back there. The corn burner is still here. And it was a one-lane track in the two-wheel drive side of things. They had they stayed real close to the chalk line. They stayed left, and nobody really cross-tracked. Nobody tried to move to the right-hand side of things. And Sullivan just last hook of the class wins going away. Like just a really, really good strong pass for the corn burner. And so there were two on the evening that the last hook of the class goes and wins the class. In the Super Farm division, the Brian Barman did a great job, and they had that tractor looking really, really good. He took home the hardware, and then in the Light Supers, the Haugs took home the hardware, and it was really good to also see the Terry tractor, Bryce Terry, and the D21 High Strung. Of course, he's not far from home there. He had a very respectable second place finish with the machine, and but yeah, it was a great event, and they ran them really quick. I think we were out of there in just about 3.5 hours, and they had some local classes, I think, that they were trying to get done before the bad weather came, but it rained and it was very, very windy, and but it was a really, really good event. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and the action was great. And as Miles and I kind of talked yesterday off camera, points implications are coming, but Jared Nelson looking real good in the two-wheel drive division right now. Going into the coming weekends and next week with the big swing in Goshen and Evansville and Altamont.
Yeah, the Hell Week swing, right? That's the one they call Hell Week there, where everybody, all the events coming up there for starting in Goshen and then to Evansville, Altamont. Yeah, then they actually some of them start up in Freeport, don't they? On Tuesday, I think. Super Farms and them start up on Tuesday, and yeah, Jason Sullivan there, that corn burner truck, he's turning into one of those guys that you can see over the years just getting better and better, and we saw that in Rock Valley with the Fleming trucks.
Right.
Chaz drove both of them there over the weekend. Obviously Tony had just gotten married, and he was on his honeymoon, and Chaz took the wheel of both of those, and two strong trucks there, and so yeah, the Iowa boys in two-wheel drive been tough here.
Absolutely.
For Tony to get that seat back, right?
Well, that's it. It's like you let your brother in there a little bit, and the little brother's gonna showing you how it's done there. So he picked up the rock there with that truck. But yeah, no, that was good to see. Good to see those teams. And you talk about the Nelsons all the years, and all the championships and everything. And it's good to see that the Iowa guys coming. Really, Iowa really hasn't been a real hotbed. I mean, obviously Roger Simon, but I mean, other than that,
Sure.
it's good to see those other competitors come out and do well.
Absolutely. Well, I think some other stories from the two wheelers that weekend that I took away. Mikey White had a sharp night, absolutely, and then he came back and followed it up and won the class in Elizabethtown Saturday night. So he had a solid weekend with that addiction machine out of Lafayette, Tennessee, and I was really good. It was good to see. I thought Jonathan Payne had a good run with his Rampage machine up there. Top 10 finish for him, and I know he was. He had told me, over the weekend that he was, kind of. After I saw him Saturday night, we talked a little bit, and he said after he had the opportunity, he might have, made a little change and run a little bit different line to see, because he thought there was a pass over there, but he was afraid to go. But, he kind of stayed in the same tracks in the same line as everybody, but he kind of thought going away that maybe if he'd moved over just a little further to the right, he would have, hit pay dirt there. So. But yeah, all in all, a good weekend for me, and looking forward, as Miles said, to America's Pull coming up, this weekend at the Marshall Putnam Fair in Henry, Illinois. 6 classes. It's going to be a great day, hopefully.
Yeah, you talk about some of the the newer guys out running out on the circuit, and Jonathan Payne there, good runs there, and like you say, just going to these different places that they've kind of dabbled here a little bit. Back and forth the last couple of years, but yeah, good to see them, everything paying off there for them. And the couple new trucks there out of the southern Indiana area there, the Midnight Obsession truck, he had a good run there up at Tampico, and
Well, and I guess it's okay for us to discuss, but Jonathan Payne is adding another one to the stable. He has recently acquired an ex-Timmerman, the Bullseye, that I think was in Ohio for a while, and it is now going to Georgetown, Indiana. So by the end, middle part of the season, I think they're already redoing engine work on it, and they are, planning to have 2 out for the remainder of this summer, and then do a full overhaul on that one over the winter, and then chase it with 2. So I don't know if they're going to continue with the Pro Stock 4-wheel drive as well, or if they will kind of just park that one for a while and concentrate on the 2-wheel drive program. Haven't really talked to them about how that goes, but more 2-wheelers are coming.
Well, you can't have one, right? You always you got room in the trailer. You might as well put a second one in there, and that seems to be the way things go. Now, going back to Rock Valley, got to talk about the light limited modified class. Now, there is a class that had the chance to see for the first time out there, and boy, what an interesting class that is. We had a guy out there with a couple LS1 engines. We had turbines out there. We had a guy with actually a limited pro engine, a 540 or 640 cubic inch engine with diesel, and he's actually the points leader out there. And boy, what an interesting class. Now, I believe the Hogs are putting together a tractor to run in that class as well, the light limited mod class. It's boy, you want ingenuity. You've that is the class for you, because it is pretty interesting. So be interesting how that whole deal comes about. But yeah, I heard I just got a message yesterday or the other day with about the Hogs putting a light limited mod together. So that'll be interesting for them, something different.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds to me like everybody had a pretty good weekend, and looks like there's a lot of stuff going on this weekend as well. Of course, I know, Dan, you're headed down to just south of Nashville.
Yep, the 50th for Chapel Hill, and boy, it's been a wild last week or so with everybody kind of figuring out what's going to happen down there with numbers and everything, and apparently the door has been busted wide open as far as entries go, and we've got some big numbers there, just shy of 100 that they're planning on. But now, if I go back, I was trying to think of this the other day. Like when I first went there, and had to be like 94, 95, and I remember the numbers being we had probably 25, 30 two-wheelers. I mean, four-wheel drives were way up there. I mean, was it when they went back with NTPA? Is that when they started shaving the numbers back, or do you remember when that all took place? Or
Yeah, I think as the show, as equipment has gotten to be more powerful, it's taken them more time to get things ready to run as well. So I mean, I don't know. It's a hot debate we can have back and forth and discuss how fast things can be and what we can do. But that's been one of the scenarios I would say the most right now is I think they're trying to not pull till 2 o'clock in the morning in Tennessee, and I think that we've done that before. And maybe this, the board of directors and the guys that are helping make these decisions, they would love to keep that show to where all of their people are not on the track working the track till 2 a.m. and also not, trying to keep your fans in the stands till 2 a.m. I think it's a hard deal, but also that's a great situation to be in the sense that everybody wants to come to Chapel Hill and pull. And so they want to experience that Southern hospitality. They want to have some of that coleslaw and some of the amazing meals that they put together for them there at the school. And they want to also get to have a chance to pull on that red clay that's basically just sits there as a pulling track year round. And so I guess for each of those instances, it's worth that for everybody to be there. And, there are people that it's the only event they'd choose. If you gave them, that's the only event they'd choose to be at. And so for that, they want to be there as competitors. And that's difficult for Clint and for all the guys in Orange because they have this sort of mentality that they need to have in order to try to keep their show moving as well. And 100 hooks is a lot for a single track. That's a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So, and then on that topic, as far as, with the, 100 hooks, I ran into Marvin Epperson at the Greensburg event the other day, and he had told me that he'd actually contacted Mike Witt from the Louisville pull, the farm show pull, to bring up his hook, and they are actually going to use a telehandler to back in all the diesels. So they're going to back in the diesel supers as well as the pro stocks. And he had also said that there's going to be they're going to try to limit the discussions at the starting line with the pro stock pullers and all pullers to try to keep that down to a minimum. And now, Jeremy, last year, Marvin had told me that they had done this down in Brandenburg, and he said it saved them about a good hour. Now,
That's absolutely true.
You're the man on the grounds. Was it really? Could you really?
That's
tell?
Absolutely true.
Okay.
Yes, we still had we had 29 or 31 two-wheelers or something like that. But yes, it did on Saturday night make a huge difference. I don't believe they did it originally. I think after the first night was long, they came back and tried it the second night, and it definitely shaved quite a bit off of the timing of the show for sure. He's correct. He's absolutely correct in that instance, and I'm sure they'll do that again.
Yeah, so that's hopefully moving forward we'll see that at quite a few of events. I'm thinking that'll save quite a bit of time. But now I pose this question to you guys about we talk about how many is too many, and all this discussion has been going on here the last couple weeks, or actually all this season really, and we kind of saw it last year. Is there a time now where we should start limiting Grand National licenses, or what do you guys think as far as how to control numbers, or is it just open competition? Let's run them. And what do you guys feel?
This is a touchy subject because I understand, to Miles's point, the prestige, the nostalgia, the wanting to go to the places that you want to go. But for me, I think that maybe over the course of looking at this, from a top level down, does it make sense to limit super nationals to the top 25 who are chasing points or something of that nature? And, I guess then you draw the line with, okay, well, if somebody's in the 25th spot or somebody's really having a bad start to the season and they're going to come on late and you ignore them or you don't put them in based upon where they are in the standings, then that's not fair either. I don't have an answer, but yes, I feel like on single tracks at Super Nationals, when you have 100 to 110 hooks of an evening, there's going to have to be something happening at some point. Yes. Do I know what that is? No, I don't. But this, I think they tried with as best they could to figure something out this year, and then clearly, they've kind of walked that back, which is great because it needs to be fair for everybody. But I think going forward, if you make the rule before the year starts, then everybody kind of knows this is how we're going to combat this, or this is what we're going to do about it. But again, I feel like if you have to, you could always have some sort of a preliminary event. Like,
Right.
send them as many want to go, but then, you got to qualify to get in, just like you did at Farley, just like you do at other places, and then you take the top 25 or 20 or whatever it is you decide to limit it with, and then that way everybody knows what they're getting into. What do you guys think?
I kind of have a different sort of philosophy, I would say, on it. And I'll just be honest with you. There are times where it's a lot, but I think this really adversely affects just 3 events we're really talking about. I mean, let's be realistic here, and let's say that this is Toma, Chapel Hill, Bowling Green, that we're really going to have to consider. What happens is, as you said, Jeremy, super national events. But I think the thing that really comes to it is you start thinking about a Saturday night at Bowling Green. Last couple of years, Saturday night at Bowling Green, we've had about 45 pro stock tractors. Yeah. I want to watch them. I have no problem. I have no problem with there being 45 tractors on Saturday night at Bowling Green. I am content with that. 2 out of the last 3 years, we've had minis running for 10,000 to win. There's been 40 some odd of them. It's been pretty neat. It's been a pretty good show, and I have no problem. So, if we really are narrowing it down, we're really just pigeonholing one class, and that's the 2-wheel drive truck class a lot of times, on the big events that people might be concerned about. And I think, here's where the problem lies. I don't think you can limit them at entry. I don't think you can say, well, you're number 25 and your other vehicle is number 26, and I'm sorry, but you can only have one license. We're not going to do this for number 26. I don't think you can do that for many reasons, because everybody starts at this point, and we probably wouldn't have this problem for the Chapel Hill experience of what they've had, like say with the 4-wheel drives. They wouldn't have had this problem if we were later in the season.
Right.
But
or
they
had a couple events early in the season. Right.
One hook.
Right.
And so, what happens is, and I don't mean this to be negative towards anybody, but attrition occurs, breakage happens. People realize they're 60 points out of the points race, and they no longer can justify driving all the way to Iowa or all the way to here or there for a points event. So they take themselves out of it. Does that take away the desire to go to Chapel Hill? No, absolutely not. Everybody wants to do that. No. They're going to continue to want to do that. But the way that the schedule fell this year, there was one hook for the 4-wheel drive truck class, and that made things very challenging. You started looking at it, and you see a guy like Rob Foster, and you see Anna Mangan, and you see, people who most traditionally are in the top 5 to 7 to 10 in the points hooks, down a little bit on the list. That's not common, but I don't think you can limit the number of Grand National licenses. I think it's a business side of things too for the NTPA. Those licenses bring income. They're something they're selling. So when you get that license, it's a benefit for the company. From the other side of it, when you start to look at the numbers and from the sheer idea of what's hooking to the track, like the bigger classes, they can offshoot those some. Chapel Hill has done that in many instances. The Unlimited and the Diesel Supers don't bring as many numbers. They know that, so keep them on the schedule, and that helps offset some of your bigger classes. This particular instance, like I said, it's sort of the anomaly. It's the one-time deal where we're really, 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 really running into big number issues, and that's because they've got 2 really popular classes that are there, and you can't really harp on them for that. Who doesn't want to see the minis run? And 4-wheel drive trucks in Chapel Hill they're synonymous with one another.
Right. And like we talked about earlier, it's a good problem to have. I mean, with that amount of entries, I mean, is it, a situation where possibly, okay, so if you don't make an event or something, you kind of fall off the circuit kind of thing, or kind of keep that perfect attendance thing going, or
Which I don't know what's written in the rule now, but I can go back into the years when the 2-wheel drive truck class was still down there. It's Jared had the Rockstar deal, and he had gone to Toma and he won at Toma, and he had an interest in going to Chapel Hill. And basically, the rules stated at that time that you had to have attended X amount of percent of the events prior to the event at Chapel Hill. Well, at that point in time, it was Toma time. We were 3 weeks away. He had already missed a couple of hooks, and percentage wise, he couldn't really get there.
Right.
So he didn't get to go to Chapel Hill, but that was the rule, and it was written. I mean, it was clearly written right there in the NTPA's sort of preseason documentation.
Gotcha. So, like I said, we'll see how things go here this weekend. Hopefully, keep things rolling along pretty well, and keep our eye on the with the telehandler, and maybe that's something moving forward here at some of the events. Get the vehicles up to the line, get them going, and like you say, it works for, like you say, an event like Chapel Hill or Brandenburg, where you got the single track and kind of tight quarters more or less that you're working with, and get those vehicles up there. So it'll be interesting to see how much they can shave off with that. That'll definitely be interesting.
But at the end of the day, it's Chapel Hill. It's the Lions Super Bowl of the South, and it's very prestigious. This is the 50th. Like, I don't even think that comes into play. I think once things get started, as long as they don't have a lot of breakage and a lot of attrition, you guys are going to be just fine getting them in and getting them out, and you're going to enjoy the prestige of whatever it is they've decided to do to celebrate this monumental anniversary. Like, I think it's going to be great. I'm sad I won't be there, but it's going to be a great show, I think, for you guys, and I look forward to hearing more about it. But again, I understand. I think we have to talk about it just because that's what we do. But I feel like once the show gets rolling and Marvin figures it out, you guys are going to be in a great place.
Yeah, and I think the pullers, themselves will, they'll be on their A game as far as getting up there and getting ready to go. And speaking of pullers, let's go over we've got the lineups here for the pull in Chapel Hill here. As we'll start with we've got the Diesel Supers are going to be the first class up here, and we'll bring them in here and show what we have for this event. Let's take a look here. See if we can see that. Okay, so that will be the diesel class, and we want to look at. Okay, so this will be the. So this will be the diesel super class on Friday night. Roger Peterson. We got 15 entries in that class, all the way down to Joe Degenhart. See Esden Lane, Brandon Hunt. We see Travis in there, Colin Ross, Adam Bauer. So that'll be the first class of 15 there. Then we'll move on into the pro stock class, and let's see what we got here for pros.
Which pulling order down there has traditionally been these last few years. It's either been diesel supers or pro stocks as the first class. Then the minis have run in the second hole, and then either pro stock or super stock diesel has been in the 3-hole, and then unlimited in the 4th class, and then 4-wheel drive trucks have been the 5th class.
Yeah, I know that Clint had talked about trying to run the unlimited class early, like 3rd class or so. And let me see here. We have some kind of technical difficulty here. Let me try this again.
You should have 12 or 13 unlimiteds. All the guys that were with us at Toma.
So So there is our pro stock. This will be our pro stock class. Don't want to load for me apparently. Okay, well, maybe having an issue here in southern Indiana with our internet.
That's all right. I think we know who's going to be there. And
yeah, just we'll go over like pro stock. Rhett Parrish will be number one hook there on Friday night, all the way down. Camille will be the last hook, 19th in that class there for the pro stock class. And then we'll see here if
I think we need to give kudos to the guys at Chapel Hill as well, though, for making the decision to go ahead and let everybody come. You know, I think
that was the right call.
That message was loudly portrayed. There were a lot of people that had an opinion on it, us included. And you know, I think they made the right choice, and now I hope people embrace that. And when the show may be a little bit longer, I hope that they don't have negative things to say, because this gives everybody a chance to come and run for their points. It gives everybody a chance to come and experience the awesomeness of the event and enjoy, like I said, the Southern hospitality that is there.
So there we see four-wheel drive, Mr. Chapel Hill. Larry Peterson has drawn that number one spot there all the way down to Mark Mangan. 23 entries in the modified four-wheel drive class. Mini Rod, Brian Guzza is going to get things started Friday night. Lindsey Campbell, our last hook, 21. And like you said, Miles, that is, you know, hats off to for them for, you know, having everybody, not leaving anybody, you know, on the outside looking in kind of deal. As we take a look at the unlimited class, we got a dozen. Steve Bunnage, number one hook. Kevin Criswell, last hook. And then moving on into session number 2 on Saturday, we've got Travis Schlauboss kicking off the diesel super class. Joe Degenhardt, once again, 15 entries in that class. That'll be very interesting.
So who are you down in the unlimited class from Toma? Do you know?
The only one was Uncle Sam. Wayne Purser was not entered for this event, so not sure what was going on there. But that was the one we were short from Toma. As we see pro stock session 2, Jason Miller, Mike Connie, and then we've got Kevin Schmucker, Reese Shelton down there at the bottom. Four-wheel drive class, Roger Gregg, Larry Peterson. So Larry's got some early hooks there for Mr. Chapel Hill, as Graham Young and Rob Foster down there at the bottom. And then we take a look here at the mini class again. Brian Guzza, by the luck of the draw, draws number one both nights. So he needs to go buy a lottery ticket, I think, for that. As Chase Richardson will be the last hook there on Saturday for the minis. And then we've got Billy Beers kicking off the Unlimiteds on Saturday with Brad Benedict. And then the added feature this year is the Super Stock Diesel Trucks, which they've invited as an invitational. And we see Carolyn Armistead is going to get things rolling on Friday night with her Dixie Ram. We see Eric Stacy will be there as well. Jeremy Yeager's got a couple. Nick Gillette, Shane Kellogg. And then Saturday night, we're down 5 as I believe Carolyn's got a Mid-South hook to go to. So she'll be out of that event. And then we see Shane Kellogg, Nick Gillette. So once again, all these lineups on fullpull.us. You can go to the website and if you're into studying them and seeing what what your favorite pullers are doing, you can go check that out too. So those are all available at fullpull.us there. So that is the lineups there for the Super Pull the South, and hoping for good weather and things go very well down there for the 50th. As like you said, Clint had talked about running that unlimited class early, like third class, and then they were going to possibly, after the unlimited run, do some fireworks or something to work on the track a little bit, kind of, because you know how the unlimiteds take a track and pretty much trash it pretty well. So they're gonna try to do something there. So they're working as hard as they can to try to keep things as best they can and even as they can. So that's as far as things go there on the Chapel Hill front here this weekend. Now, guys, anything special going on in Henry this weekend? What classes you got going? And
Well, it'll be
Yeah, I think it's the same
six.
pretty well.
I think it's same as it always is. They'll run pro stocks and minis. They will run. Hold on, I have it here. Let me just make sure I'm correct. Yeah, so pro stock tractors, super stock diesel trucks, unlimited super stock tractors, super mod tractors, mini rods, and 95 limited pros.
okay.
And
So almost
that'll
like they
be
swapped out haven't the lights run there in the past? The light supers or is it
They have light supers are out, super opens are in. But when you go back to the kind of roots of Henry, the roots of Henry involved the Silver Bullet.
Okay.
The Lustek family and Jerry Reed were really, really, really close and grew very, very close over the years. And so that class was a staple at Henry.
And then the minis, this will be the first hook for the PPL minis this coming weekend. They'll kick their season off. And
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
all right.
I know the Nelsons will be doing like they're not since two wheelers won't be up there, but I talked to Jeremy and Tanner's taking the red one and he's going to take Peter Norton's, so they'll be up there with those.
Good deal. Sounds like a good show there. As we've got a bunch of things happening on Full Pull Live this weekend. Quite a few events. Chapel Hill, of course, will be Friday, Saturday. We've got Outlaw events in Lee, Nebraska, as well as Montgomery City, Missouri, coming up on Friday. And then Saturday, there's just a whole pile of them. Chapel Hill as well, David City, Nebraska, Warrensburg, Missouri, Pawnee City, Nebraska, and then Springfield, Ohio will have a regional event. So I think Saturday, I think there's like 5 events going on at the same time. And then Sunday in Adrian, Michigan will be a Region 2 event up there. So lots of great things happening on Full Pull Live here. If you're not able to get to any of the events, head on over and check them out. As the Region 2 live stream had the opportunity to go to Greensburg the other day, and that was interesting to see how that all worked behind the scenes for the live stream for the regional events. So yeah, it'll be a lot of these promoters with these Region 2 events are pretty happy with getting some coverage for their events. So that's pretty neat.
That's awesome that you guys can provide it. That's great. The sport needs it.
So some great action going on. So yeah, other than that, anything else on your guys' minds here this week? Or
no, I think all the news was last week.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this has been a pretty quiet week, and I think pulling season is in full swing, and we're kind of all in the grind. And kudos to everybody for being out and going pulling this weekend, and keep all of your feedback with us and all the messages you've been sending. Thanks for everything you guys do and all the fans and people watching. But no, I'm just excited to be with Miles again. Like he and I don't get to work together very often, so I'm very, very excited to announce a tractor pull with Brother Miles this weekend up at the Marshall Putnam Fair. And I know that you're going to be in a great spot down there too, Chapel Hill. So yeah, I think it's going to be a fun weekend for everybody here.
Now, you guys just work the two of you up at Henry, or do you have another on hand? Or
yeah, we have we'll be another announcer up there named Matt Hart, who is he runs a lot with Ileana, and he does some auctioneering up there. He's kind of local, and he's been with us I think for 3 or 4 years up there, and does a fine job up in the Crow's Nest. So Miles and I'll be trackside. I usually am at the starting line. Miles is at the finish line, and Matt will be up in the Crow's Nest calling the action.
Now, Jeremy, we didn't touch on your Mid-South pull on Saturday down there, and where was that one at?
That was in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. We had 2-wheel drive, pro stock 4s, and we also had light limited super stock tractors as well. And I think there's one other class. What was it? I'm trying to remember now. But yeah, it was the Hardin County Fair, the last evening of the Hardin County Fair. we had Super Farm. That's what it was. Yeah, they had Mid South Super Farms. They also had light limited light limited super stock tractors, and the old Little Moonshiner. Larry Gorham and Monica. That bunch won the light limited supers. But yeah, they had super farms. They had 2-wheel drives. Mikey White won 2-wheel drives. I'm trying to remember. I don't have my notes in front of me here, but yeah, it was a good week. They kind of thought they were going to get rained out, and kind of waited to see what Mother Nature did. And so I think the start time was supposed to be 8:00, and I think we started almost around 8:30, 8:45, somewhere in there. But ran them quick, only about 35 or 37 entries across the classes. We didn't have any 5.0s. They were supposed to have 5.0 pros there, and nobody showed up. So unfortunately, we did not get to run those. But the other 4 classes were fun, pretty strong, and interesting to watch. So yeah, it was a good evening for sure. There in Elizabethtown with Mid-South.
Good deal. All right. Well, that'll wrap things up here for this week. And like I say, if you got any questions, met some more fans out in Rock Valley that are watching our podcast. So that was pretty cool. We've added a few more there to our arsenal. So that's pretty neat. So yeah, any questions or comments, make sure you get a hold of one of us. Let us know. And with that, we'll sign things off here. Make sure you check out Full Pull Live this weekend. Going to be all kinds of great events happening, and hopefully Mother Nature gives us a break here this weekend, and we're able to get all these shows in.
Yeah, it looked kind of iffy at Henry, so hopefully we do get to play.
Absolutely.
Have a good week, everybody.
All right, we'll see you all. Take it easy. Yep.